I'm here today in what would have been our family cemetery. This church is a beautiful old church, but it's no longer in use, and it's the church where I grew up, and many of my aunts and great aunts and relations were buried. It is now next to Manchester Airport. I lived a few lanes away, but in the name of progress, all the land has been taken, the family homes, the farms, and what is left is a very dilapidated church and a very dilapidated graveyard or cemetery. But I wanted to bring you here today because people often say to me, oh, if you're a spiritual person, it means that you can see the dead and you can talk to the dead and you can talk to the spirits, and that's spirituality, and it's frightening, and spirituality and religion shouldn't be mixed together. Well, actually, spirituality and religion probably should be the same, but they're actually very different in the world that we live in now. Cemeteries have this aura of being frightening places. We have lots of horror movies and vampire movies, murder movies set in cemeteries. But cemeteries are actually very, very peaceful places, and I visit them wherever I go in the world. I love them. I love the peace and the serenity that you can feel in a cemetery. Particularly this one, because this is where many of my aunties and uncles were buried. My own parents are not buried here, they were cremated, as was my grandmother and my grandparents, but my great aunts and uncles were, and I had one particular auntie that I absolutely loved, Auntie May, and Auntie May is buried right here. You can just see the stone. It's now very dilapidated, but when she passed away, Uncle Joe, her husband, he'd grown up in a workhouse and then an orphanage, and he'd had a really, really tough life, but he adored Auntie May. And Auntie May was very tall and she was full of fun. We loved her. And after she passed in, I think it was like 1968, we were all sad, but Uncle Joe was particularly sad. His life kind of like ended for him. He survived after that, but he used to come to her gravestone here, and he was an avid gardener, and he'd spend all his days here, and her gravestone was the most beautiful in the cemetery. He was always full of beautiful flowers, seasonal flowers, and this is spirituality. He sat every day with Auntie May here and he talked to her. She wasn't here, she's passed, she's actually in his heart, but for him, she was here. He had a place that he came to and he talked to her every day, and we used to love coming and visiting him when he was here and talking to Auntie May ourselves. So you see, there are ghosts. There are in cemeteries, the ghosts of those that we have left. But it's just energy, it's our thoughts, and it's the time that we come and we sit quietly and we talk to our loved ones, the ones that have passed. That is spirituality. It's about being present, coming into a quiet place, and then reconnecting. And when he was bothered, he would talk to Auntie May and he would feel that peace. That's spirituality. There is nothing to be afraid of in cemeteries. We grew up being afraid of cemeteries and Halloween and all the horror movies. And my dad used to say to me, Julie, go, I'll pay you £10 if you walk around that graveyard at night on your own. And I was too frightened to, because I was growing up in that era of not understanding that cemeteries are not frightening places. My dad used to say to me, the dead can't hurt you, only the living. And in many ways that's true. And we can only see what's outside of us because if it's already inside of us. So we can't see anything more than what we have inside us. So if we do see evil and we do see bad things, well, maybe we need to deal with our issues. Spirituality is about being present in your life. It's about reconnecting to everything that's around us. And if you need to go to a cemetery to talk to a loved one, to reconnect to them, do it. It will make you feel better. And that's why cemeteries are beautiful places. They're always extremely peaceful. And I love to visit them wherever I am in the world. And I really wanted to show you this beautiful old cemetery. There's people buried here from the 1600s. When I was growing up, this was all countryside and farms, and now right on the doorstep is Manchester Airport, the highway. But when you come in here, there is still a sense of peace. It's still sacred land. And I wanted to share that with you. So there's nothing to be afraid of with death. There's nothing to be afraid of cemeteries. Because if we can see it outside of us, then it's inside of us. So don't be afraid. And find your peace. And I myself hope that when I pass, I'm going to be buried in a pod so that a tree can grow on top of me. I want to still be here, present. I can feel Auntie May's presence here today. I can feel Auntie Bertha, who's in front of us. Auntie Bertha wasn't my real aunt, but she was the mother of our neighbours, and she was a character in herself. I have many stories I could tell you about Auntie Bertha, but there's lots of other stories here. There's many people who gave up their lives during the wars, people who farm this land, their stories. And that's the beauty of a graveyard. And that's spirituality, being connected. We don't have to have a living church. The church energy is still here. We don't have to have the most beautiful plot in the cemetery. Your energy is still here, and I can still feel Auntie May. I come and sit and talk to her here. I hope you've enjoyed that. I just wanted to share with you a little bit of my past. And I thank you for listening. And I hope it's helped you to overcome any fears you may have of graveyards, cemeteries, death, reconnecting, or even spirituality and religion. Thank you for listening. And if you have a loved one you need to talk to, go talk to them. And when you're on your travels, maybe go visit some of the beautiful cemeteries around the world and see what you can feel. And maybe you can hear the ghosts of the past. But all it is energy. Thank you for listening.